It's 3:17 a.m. in Satsuma, Florida, and a 911 operator gets a frantic call. It's a man, and he is screaming. He is very hard to understand and very irate. He is screaming, "If I find whoever has my daughter before you all do, I will kill them. I don't care if I spend my life in prison." This is the story of Haleigh Cummings. Some of my content has mention of extreme violence, sexual assault, and or other triggering content. Discretion is advised.
All right, and we're back. I didn't mention this the first two. I don't know which one you guys are going to hear, but we're in a different place. If you guys didn't notice. I don't know if this is probably not going to be the first one.
It's probably, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the order is. Either way, we've been recording in a new place. Just temp. Had a family accident, so shifted rooms around a little bit.
Yep. So,
but
yeah, life's been
crazy. That's why we're scrunching so many episodes together. We're recording 3 episodes in 2 nights, which is way faster than we normally do.
Yeah,
we're not faster,
but
like more
research-wise than I normally do.
Yeah, and more recording in a shorter amount of time. Not necessarily faster, because they're just as long. Because I can't stop talking.
Yes.
So from the intro, the observation is, I'm impressed that you got the name of that city right, because
I think that's what it is.
What? Say it again.
Satsuma.
Okay.
Satsuma, Florida.
Okay. If you guys are from Florida, correct.
I'm gonna get hate mail.
Correct us.
Blah blah blah.
Well, we're not from Florida.
Yeah.
We're not. I'm not Florida man, so feel free to correct us, but we're trying.
Yep. I do my best.
You did as good as I would have done.
Right. I mean, names of places is not that important in comparison to.
We got the state. I mean, it's not like you mispronounced Florida, so we're good. Flo Rida.
You're gonna hear me come on here and be like, in America.
Somewhere in the general continental United States. It's okay. It's not Hawaii and Alaska. Continental.
Yes. So, what do you think about that little intro?
I kind of relate a little bit. I know I'm not supposed to, but like, I mean, you feel like you would say the same thing.
Oh yeah.
Like it's one of those things where, and it's like the moral part of you is like, that's morally wrong, but the actual emotion part is like, I would still feel that way though.
Yeah.
So I can kind of relate to what the guy said, and I still have that thing that we talked about in one of the other podcasts where I'm hoping that this doesn't end up sad.
It's me.
Every time I come in hoping it's not sad, like maybe I'm just a continual optimist or so, I don't know, but I just hope.
Yeah, I've been making some observations about this podcast, and there's 2 things that I always do. I always bring people down, and I never have a case that ends. I need to start doing a case where there's actually an ending. So
I know the case that I want to do, that I want you to do, because you know the story of it.
Okay.
It is, and so here, if you guys watch the episode, you're getting a teaser of a future case.
Okay.
It is the girl who survived by climbing her way up the side of the road, the hill. The reason why I love that case is because of how insanely strong she was.
Yes. It's already in my list of cases to do.
So there you go. There's a teaser for something that's in the works, and we can actually leave you guys on a, inspirational note.
Yeah. We definitely need to do that one. Because the writing will be very good on that one, I feel.
Yeah. Well, in general, we always like when we get to talk about the victim and shed a positive light on the victim and say how amazing of a person they are.
Call back to episode 1 of the podcast where I was with Joe. The first episode I did ever on a podcast was a victim survival. So go listen to that.
Well, and also we talked about the Carr brothers. H. Do you remember the other initial?
I never remember her initials. I think it's AH or HA.
Maybe HA. It goes, so she just goes off of initials to not be identified, but she is a survivor of the Carr brothers, and she is another inspirational, like, she doesn't.
Badass female.
Yeah, she doesn't need to be. If she doesn't want to be known, she doesn't need to be known. But at the same point in time, man, she is the kind of person where it's like, go her.
Yeah. So go back and listen to those
I was going to say, go back and listen to the Carr brothers, because you did mention her a lot in that one.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump into the case. Are you ready?
Yep, let's go.
All right. It's the night of February 10th, 2009, and the 911 operator is trying to get information from this frantic couple on the other end. This couple is Ronald Cummings and his girlfriend, Misty Crosling. Misty was watching Ronald's 5-year-old daughter, Haleigh, and 3-year-old son, Junior. Misty says she puts the kids to bed around 8 p.m. They were in the same room as her. When she got up at 3 a.m. to go to the bathroom, she noticed the light was on in the kitchen. She knew she had turned it off, so she went in to check. This is when she saw the back door open and propped open by a brick and Haleigh's blanket on the back porch. When she went to the back into the room, she saw that 5-year-old Haleigh was gone. She said she ran around looking everywhere, but saw no signs of her anywhere around. This is when Ronald pulled up in the driveway and saw Misty standing at the front door. She told him what had happened, and they called 911. All right.
So do you know what case I thought of first that this was giving me flashbacks to?
Probably the same one that I thought of.
You're going to say it at the same time? Say it on 3?
I don't know if it's going to be the same one.
It might not be the same one. We'll talk about it if it's not.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Casey
Lucas
Anthony.
Hernandez. But I mentioned both of them in this story.
I thought Lucas Hernandez too, though, actually.
Yes.
Because we're local to the Kansas area, and Lucas Hernandez was in Wichita, and I thought that as well. Yeah. Casey Anthony reminded me, though, too, because, like, she was laying there sleeping, and that's when her kid... We're not going to get into that. We did a multi-part on that, so you guys can go check that out. But that part does make me think of that one too.
I love how that went awry, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to rehash a 3-part super deep dive that we did, because there's just way too much to cover. But those two give me those vibes, and I just hope they're not those, though, because both had bad endings. So.
Yeah, we'll go back and we'll talk about both of those cases, so remind me at the end. But as far as Haleigh's case, the 911 call is hard to hear in parts. It has been released, at least parts of it. They are both yelling, very upset.
When you say hard to hear, are you saying hard to understand, or hard because it's emotionally hard to...
Both, I would say, but... It's very hard to hear him,
like, make out the words he's saying.
Yes, either one of them. It's hard.
Is it one of those ones that they usually, or do they put subtitles with it, or did they?
Somewhat.
Okay,
yeah,
the ones they can make out.
Inaudible.
Right.
Yeah. So they're both yelling. However, Ronald blames Misty on the call right away, saying, "How did you let my daughter get stolen, bitch?" I'm just going to go ahead and say the words.
Yeah.
On the call, Misty has a hard time giving a good description of Haleigh. She says things like she was wearing pajamas, she's not very tall. This could be shock, pure panic, or not really knowing.
Or the fact that she's getting yelled at and accused while trying to give a description too. I'm not saying, like, I mean, if she did it, I'm not saying, like, Ron's off base for doing that. I mean, well, it's not great. It's not helping the cause. But, I mean, I get it if he really believes she had something to do with it, that he would be angry. But I can imagine from Misty's perspective, being yelled at while trying to give a description is probably not very easy.
Yeah. So police arrive at 3:40 to Ronald screaming in the front yard. He says his daughter is missing because his dumb bitch girlfriend was watching her. So immediately...
I'm not liking Ron the way he's starting. I mean, it's early to judge, but I mean...
Yeah. As we get into this, you'll see...
The language... It doesn't feel like that's the first time he's said that about her, the way he's being derogatory like that. So, like... He's like, yeah, I get you'd be angry if you thought somebody did something to your kid, but, like, it just... It gives me the vibe that it's not the first time he said those words.
Yeah. So, and you'll see as we go on, there's a lot to this. So, immediately the police jump into action. They really did, like, search everywhere.
And we're down on the police when they don't, but can we applaud when they do?
Yes, hell yes.
Good job. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I think 5-year-old girl goes missing. This is a smaller community in Florida, and I think they really, like, didn't see a lot of this.
Right.
And everyone knew the family.
Yeah.
Everyone knew what was going on, and I think it was just, like, a shock.
They're worried about the girl.
Yeah, they were.
As they should be.
Right. So they searched the ground, water, and dog teams. Media jumps on the case and, like, the surrounding area. It's big. It's big news. Where could little Haleigh have gone? But media and the public weren't the only ones with questions. Police had a lot of questions, and they were directed at Misty. First of all, why did she not call 911 until Ronald got there? Then, how did Haleigh go missing so close to her? Because Misty's story changes. First, she says the kids were sleeping in the bed with her. Then she says Haleigh was sleeping on a small mattress by the bed. Nancy Grace did an interview with like one of the family members pretty shortly after all this happened. And I watched it, and it showed the room that they were in. And the mattress was like the size of a crib mattress, and it was about 3 feet from their bed. And they had said that they always keep the door to the room open. They also believed the bedroom door was open. I said that. So there was also another weird part of her story. Misty said that she got up in the night. First, she said to get a drink of water. Then she said to go to the bathroom. Little things like this to the police are like, why are you lying about the little stuff?
Yeah, right.
Now, you know, maybe she doesn't remember, but like little things in a police investigation will throw a lot of suspicion on you.
Yeah, little inconsistencies, yeah.
So she says first to drink water, then to go to the bathroom, and noticed the light was on in the kitchen. So, however, there is a master bedroom or bathroom right off the master bedroom. But she says that she was going to the other bathroom, which was across the house.
Which only makes sense to me if she was going to get a drink of water, like she was doing both things maybe. Like she went to the kitchen, then went to the, I don't know.
And so how the trailer was set up, like she would have had to pass the kitchen.
So it was a trailer too, so it's not a big area.
Right.
Kind of.
I mean, it was.
It's a big enough trailer to have two bathrooms, but
Yes.
it's not a. Still a trailer. Right. So it's still going to be. I don't know how many of our. I've only ever visited a friend that was in a trailer, and like, it's not as small as you would think, but it's also not. It's not as big as a normal house either.
Right. So the second bathroom was across the house, and it went across the kitchen. So that's when she would have seen that light. If she would have got up to go to the master bathroom, she may not have seen that light was on at all.
Right.
They allude that she wouldn't have seen it was on at all. But here nor there, when she did see that the light was on, She opened the back door to see the screen door was propped open with the cinder block. There was no sign of forced entry at all into the house. Both doors at the back slam shut when they let go of. So the screen door slams shut, the interior door slams shut. So
there's a lot of things I'm thinking about now. One, it's a cinder block. So that to me already, I don't know how many people have picked up a cinder block, but they're not light. So not something a 5-year-old would pick up.
Yes.
I mean,
the cinder block, they believe, came from the yard.
And did they show it? Like, it's not like a tiny cinder block, right?
It's not
like,
tiny.
Okay,
No. It's a regular size.
That's okay. That's what I was thinking. So it's a regular. There's no way a 5-year-old's picking it up.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not a kid just wanting to go outside and play.
There's other things
the
that
other
support
thing
that she didn't leave on her own too.
The other thing is with the doors slamming. It makes me think that's somebody. If the doors didn't slam, or if she didn't hear it, it would have had to have been somebody who knew the house, because they would have to know that the door slammed.
Yep.
Because even if they put the cinder block in there, it's still going to slam on a cinder block and make noise. So it had to be somebody that knew the house at the very least.
Ronald stated that he always locks that back door before he leaves for work. The back door lock is about 3 feet off the ground, which is just about how high Haleigh is.
Yeah, about where she could reach.
And they showed this reporter opening the door, and it sticks. And you really have to work it. Then you open it, and if you let go at all, it slams back shut. It's one of those. Let's see. The bedroom is roughly 25 feet from the back door. Also, Haleigh is 5. She is vocal, and her family says she would have fought or made noise if someone she didn't know took her. I also don't love how Misty describes Haleigh. So in an interview, she kept saying a couple of times, "I didn't do anything to that girl."
Yeah, not taken like you would in general, if you felt a connection to a child, you wouldn't say that that way.
Right.
Like,
so our family has many step parents, girlfriends and boyfriends of parents that have a child, right? I don't know how to describe it any other way.
yeah, it's
We have a lot of step parents in our family.
let's just say it's not weird, it's complicated. Like
Yes.
it's not, there's nothing weird, but at the same point in time, like there are step parents, there are also, like, you know, exes, things like that
Right.
are, yeah. So yes, there are a lot of different pieces to it, but nobody, and I think this is where you're going, nobody would ever refer to the
That
kid
child.
involved in this situation. Like, it felt weird to me even saying that kid,
Yeah.
because I'm like, that's not what I call her.
Right. No one would ever say that girl.
Yes.
Ever. I couldn't picture any of them.
None of the people
Right.
in the family would.
And I even asked. I was like, would you ever refer to my child as that girl? And it's like, no, of course not.
Like, it's always like affectionate terms, like just saying how much everybody loves her.
Right. And I also think, like, it just seems really detached.
It does, yeah.
When you know the whole story, I'm not sure how weird this seems or not, because when you say it's not weird, it's complicated, this family gets strange.
Yeah.
So we don't know, and we'll see as we go on. But
And now the more you're talking, it is giving me Lucas Hernandez vibes more. And the reason that is because in that particular case, the girlfriend didn't seem like she had as much of a connection to Lucas emotionally.
So, I don't know. I know she wasn't Haleigh's mother biologically, but it just seemed super detached to me.
Yeah.
So, police, and of course me now, is like, is Misty lying? Did this child run out of the house? Which doesn't seem likely.
And immediately Ron's pointing the finger at her, Ronald.
Right.
I want to call him Ron because, like, I don't know anybody who goes by Ronald other than Ronald Goldman, because they made him, like, they didn't give Ronald Goldman the option to go by Ron. Like, he's forever Ronald because of the reporters.
Or did a stranger take her? Like, those are pretty much our three things right now. So, unfortunately, this couple had their life thrusted into the media very quickly. And cracks began to show in this family that reflected a very long, hard road. So Haleigh's biological parents are Ronald Cummings and Crystal Sheffield. She has that biological brother, Junior, who is the child of both of them as well. Ronald was given custody to the two of the children in 2005 after he accused the biological mom of cocaine use and being an irresponsible parent.
And this is 4 years, so this is 4 years before the events. Haleigh's 5, so that happened at like 1.
Yeah.
Just lining out the timeline, I guess.
Yeah. And I don't know where Junior would come in all of that.
I don't remember. Did you say Junior was older or younger? Younger.
He was 3 at the time when Haleigh was 5. So it was back and forth there.
It probably would have been like a that's tough. That might have been a like a happened during pregnancy kind of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a lot going on here. So Ronald was no angel. He was arrested in 2001 for threatening to kill someone. In 2002, 2004, and 2005, he was arrested for drug possession.
So
However,
it sounds like Ron has a temper from the call and from previous arrests.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the things. Like, he had, like, I didn't go into Ronald's background as much, but he, I mean, was passed around from family member to family member because there was a lot of stuff going on. He had a lot of trauma growing up.
In his childhood, yeah.
And so you have him, and then I don't know much about Crystal because there wasn't a ton about her, but she obviously had the kids taken away at some point, so there was something happening there.
Yeah, and there's got to be some proof in that court case for them to take the kids away from her. So yeah, there's obviously something there.
The state and federal, all of them looked into this case. There was no sign of abuse or neglect of the children in Ronald's care. So we do know they were not neglected or abused up until this point.
Right, okay.
So Haleigh, who is our 5-year-old victim, she was born with Turner syndrome. She needed to see a cardiologist and an endocrinologist monthly. And she missed much of her appointments. So someone with Turner syndrome is missing a chromosome at birth. That chromosome would be the sex chromosome for a female. It's only affected females.
Okay.
And they're missing one of the female chromosomes.
Okay.
As far as I can figure this thing out.
So I'm not saying much because I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it. So I was kind of listening to. In a way, it sounds, and I apologize. I'm not trying to be insensitive to anybody who's listening that may have a kid or may know somebody in their family that have either one of these. I'm just trying to understand it as well. I think I think Down syndrome is similar to that, and is that I think that's a chromosome.
I think they're missing
difference.
I don't know.
Or I think maybe but either way, I think they're both chromosome related, and I do remember hearing that it does affect only women. And I don't remember causes, but I feel like it could be, at least what I remember with Down syndrome is one of the causes could be like the age of the woman, or also if there's things involved like smoking, alcohol, things like that too.
It definitely could be. I didn't see any of that because I was trying to kind of figure out what Haleigh,
it was.
Yeah, what it was and what Haleigh was going through. And what it seems to be is that there are facial differences and stuff like that in some cases. Mm-hmm. Mostly what it is she is underdeveloped. She would not be able to have children naturally. And she'd be smaller, wouldn't develop woman features in her lifetime.
And so, like, I know I went too much and really probably too much in the weeds, and it's not relevant to, not all of it's relevant to this, but where I was trying to figure out if it was relevant is you said that they didn't, she missed appointments. Mm-hmm. And so I was trying to figure out if it was like something that was life-threatening, missing appointments, and the cardiology part seems like that's probably pretty bad to miss appointments too.
I think they just watch it though. I think it's one of those things that it's not like a big issue.
Yeah, and so that's my lack of knowing and trying to talk it out is like I don't know if it is just a monitoring situation, it's maybe not a neglect type thing then.
Mm-hmm. However this happened, she did miss many of her appointments, but she didn't seem to have like a hard time with it. However, I wanted to mention about the Turner syndrome because we're looking at a case where this child right now is missing in this case. So what we're looking for is someone who's going to be much smaller and much more underdeveloped than what we believe.
Which the things that we were already talking about, lifting a cinder block, a sticking door, things like that are going to be harder.
Yep. You're also thinking, you know, if someone was trafficked, they're going to be looking much more underdeveloped than maybe an average woman. So,
well, also
that could affect it.
Also, when you say that, like, when you say to people you're looking for a 5-year-old, but then that's actually smaller, that could actually affect. So maybe she looks more like a 3-year-old, and like people should be on the lookout for someone that looks like a 3-year-old.
Exactly.
Like, when you're giving descriptions, I think.
Yes. So it is important to this case. So even though her short life was a little rocky at times, Haleigh she beamed with happiness in the few pictures of her. She had these bright brown eyes and a smile, like, almost so wide that it took her whole face up. Like, she just had this huge smile.
She sounds like a happy kid.
And she was sweet, and had her whole life ahead of her. She didn't seem to be, like, a hard-to-handle kid. She just seemed sweet. Really genuinely sweet. So, now that we know a little bit more about Haleigh, there are starting to show a lot of cracks in the relationship between Ronald and Misty as well. So first, being the obvious, one of the big things about this case when you look it up, and I'm just going to say it how it is, and we'll talk about it. Ronald was 25 years old. Misty was 17.
Okay.
So the math isn't math in there for me.
Yeah.
We have a much older man with a underage girl.
Yeah.
And so when you look back at some of the things Misty has said, it's like she was a kid herself.
And there's so right or wrong, you say that it makes me think this. It makes me think power dynamic difference. It makes me think with Ron's temper, also power dynamic difference, where it seems like, I don't know. It immediately makes me feel a certain way. Like,
it's icky.
Yeah, it definitely is. Icky. But like, I feel like when it's someone, and you can really say that it goes either way, but it seems like it tends to happen more like older male, younger female, but it does happen both ways, but like the older person and then the underage person, it always seems to be the older. I mean, it just is the older person that is mature and controlling, and the younger person just doesn't fully comprehend because they're a youth still. They're still a kid. So they don't understand things the same way, and that tends to be like a manipulation type situation, or a it's not good.
Right.
Yeah. So
And there's a lot more to
Great.
this. So the two met at Haleigh's bus stop, and Misty began babysitting the kids. That's how they met. Then they became a couple, and she babysat. As far as I know, she sort of lived with them. She was the live-in girlfriend.
But this is after the divorce, right? Or we don't know.
Divorce.
From Crystal, the first.
I don't think they were ever married.
Oh, okay. So after they
Broke
so they
up
did custody, but we don't know about
Right.
if they were married, divorced, whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But we don't know, like it was after the custody thing with Crystal, probably.
Yeah.
I would think.
know.
I would think so, because of the bus stop, and like they'd have to
Yeah.
be old enough to be going on a bus, and that would be after the custody. I would think.
No.
We're making assumptions, but my assumption would be that would be after Crystal.
Yeah. I feel Nancy Grace said, and a lot of people, like, it resonates with them. Nancy Grace was like, this kid had no chance. And it felt like this little kid's life was just a dumpster fire. Like, there was a lot going on with these adults.
Yeah, I mean, again.
And it just,
Again, like Lucas Hernandez, like
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, real quick, let me do a short, small tangent and ask you something
Okay.
personal here.
okay.
You ready?
Oh boy.
Because I don't know this answer. I don't know much about it.
Okay.
What are your feelings on Nancy Grace? Because I know she's polarizing. I know that much, that she's polarizing. Some people
Right.
hate her. Some people love her. I mean, there's some people in the middle, but most people are one side or the other.
Yeah, I really usually can't stand her, to be quite honest. I don't like her voice. I don't like the conclusions that she jumps to. She, very early on in cases, will come on and be like, this is what it is, and has no evidence or basis behind it. And I usually don't care for people who do that. In this case, like, she came on very early on, was like, Misty's to blame. Misty's the one that did it. Da-da-da. Now, was she right? I don't know. But,
So,
like, you can't just jump to conclusions like she does.
what
She was right about Casey Anthony, though. I will say that.
what I'm thinking from your description, tell me if I'm right or not. She sounds like the kind of I don't even know if journalist is the right word, because journalist is writing, but like the kind of TV personality that is very sensationalizes things to get the attention, and sometimes it can be, it's good that she's getting attention on these cases, but the jumping to conclusions can harm people way more than it should if she knew the actual answer before she was accusing people.
And more than not, she goes for cases of small kids too. Like, she was like head on in the Casey Anthony one. She,
was she around during the John Benet Ramsey, or was she
I don't
after?
think so. I think she was after. She really went hard on Gabby Petito. Like, I mean, and a lot of the time she's right, but like, you can't go and say things.
She sounds like
know.
What do they call that? That's a big thing that they're saying now. Like they say kids are like a walking intrusive thought or whatever. Like,
I've never heard that.
like there, where they just literally say what they're thinking.
Yeah.
And so like,
oh yeah.
So like with the Gabby Petito thing, like everybody's like, it was the boyfriend, but like everybody was also like, we don't have enough to say it was the boyfriend, but Nancy Grace was like, I don't care.
Right. Exactly.
It was the boyfriend. Like
She's
I
definitely
feel
like
it,
that.
so I'm saying it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her coverage on Lucas Hernandez was interesting too.
Well, and it was interesting, but wasn't she also right there too?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, she seems like she's going off of instinct. She seems like she may be gut feeling sometimes wrong and may ruin people's lives, but sometimes gut feeling right. And then she could be like, see, I told you.
I think it's more with me, it's like when she's right, it's like, I'm right.
Yeah.
When she's wrong, it's, I was still right. They got it wrong.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And
yeah.
that too kind of...
Right. Admit when you missed one. Like, it's nobody's 100%.
You're right 99% of the time. Just admit the 1% that you're wrong
like,
and move on.
Just say, hey, like, everything I heard led me to believe something. I was wrong. I apologize.
But sorry if you like Nancy Grace.
Yeah, but that's why I wanted to bring it up on here, partially for my benefit of knowing about who we're talking about, but also because I feel like all of the community out there watching us, that might be something that you guys have strong feelings about too, of whether you like Nancy Grace or not. So feel free to vent whatever those feelings are in the comments. Just be nice to each other.
Yes.
If somebody likes Nancy Grace, it's okay.
Right. It's not gonna ruin the world.
We're not gonna hate on each other for it.
Right.
Discuss, not fight.
I will say though, like some of the things she said about Casey Anthony and the Kaylee Anthony thing, and Casey Anthony just herself was pretty spot on.
Gotcha.
And pretty hilarious.
Gotcha.
But I'll just stop it at that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
You didn't say it, Nancy Grace did.
right. All right. So they became a couple. Like I said, 17-year-old and 25-year-old. On top of all of this, they both struggled with drug dependencies. Pretty hardcore. So the night that Haleigh went missing, the couple got into a fight. Ronald had thrown all of her clothes onto the yard of one of her friend's house. But Misty still came in time to babysit the children that night. Then Ronald went to work, but up until Haleigh went missing, we really don't know what happened in those hours. Only Misty knows. So let's talk about Misty a little bit. I talked about how Ronald didn't have a great life. Misty didn't have a great life either. According to some sources, Misty left school in the 6th grade, and she could not read or write. Misty was a victim of SA since she was a young girl. So some of her emotionlessness could come from the fact that she has been through so many traumatic experiences.
Right.
Or maybe it was because she really didn't know any better.
And I don't feel like all that happening growing up means to me that she may not have been equipped to deal with this situation.
She wasn't in a good position for a 17-year-old to be in.
But like
in the first place.
Yeah, and then you add on top of it that she probably intellectually didn't develop the same way with, leaving early and not being able to read and write. And then also the trauma that SA causes at an early age. And then you say, okay, you have all those factors and then you have a big event. It probably explains why she struggled with this, a lot of things in this, with giving descriptions, with matching stories, things like that. She was probably terrified and she didn't know what to do.
Right. So whatever it may be, it feels like Misty holds the key to this whole story. She changed so many of her facts, but how much does she really know? And
that's not excusing her, by the way, if she did anything wrong.
Right.
I'm just saying that, like, that can make some of the chaos in this.
The year before Haleigh went missing, the news story of Kaylee Anthony hit. These cases are very similar. But
and they were Florida too, right?
Yep. One thing was very different. Kaylee Anthony was born in a richer part of Florida.
Okay.
She was from a wealthier family, and Haleigh was born in a trailer park to people who didn't really have a whole lot of education, money, so forth, so on. So Haleigh's story didn't get as much attention as Kayleigh's.
Right.
But was this similar in the fact that, was this a thing where Misty gave Haleigh a drug to make her sleep that night? You know, you had with Cayleigh Anthony that whole Zanny the Nanny.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what that was, yeah.
And all of that. So Haleigh's story kind of began to grow colder after this because there wasn't as much attention. And
the Anthony case took all the attention away from it and all the resources.
Right. But Ronald and Misty still stayed in the news and on police's radar. 4 weeks after Haleigh went missing, on March 12th, Ronald and Misty got married at the courthouse. Misty says it is because it is what Haleigh wanted. But I am pretty sure it was probably to beat essay charges because he was in a relationship with an underage girl.
I was sitting there going, that didn't make sense to me, and then you said that, and I'm like, oh, that's because my brain wasn't thinking about that.
Some people believe that Ronald was trying to, like, kind of get information out of Misty.
Also, I'm sorry. Keep going.
No, go ahead.
Just something popped into my brain. I was like, also, there's you can't testify against your spouse, right?
Yep.
Okay.
There is that as well.
Sorry, that popped into my brain. I'm like,
okay. Yeah. Ronald could have been trying to get information out of her, or, like you said, the whole you can't testify against a spouse. So, while all of that was happening, and news reporters were like, oh, they got married, what's up with this? Da-da-da-da-da. Billboards were put up about Haleigh, and the reward was increased. September 19th, a pond south of Pataluka is drained as part of the search for Haleigh, but nothing was found.
How do you... different question for a different day, but how do you drain a pond?
You very...
Were you going to say very carefully?
Yes, very tediously. Very carefully.
Anyways, go ahead.
Okay. So September 25th, a letter was written by Christina Nene Prevet from jail saying that she was partying with Misty Crosling and Haleigh the night that everything happened, and Haleigh took an Oxycontin pill. But detectives don't believe the story at all. There's no proof of anything, and they think it was a lie to get attention or... Which happens so much. It does, yes. But there may be more to this theory than we think. According to the Into Thin Air podcast, the officer said that they got more than one tip, quote, a few, that Misty and Haleigh was at a party that night that she went missing. He explains that there is nothing 100% verified, but the house she was seen at, possibly, was 15 miles away. Misty didn't have a car, but her brother had access to one that night. No one can produce facts or evidence in this. Police say it is pretty foggy, and guesses...
You said earlier in the night she threw Ronald's clothes out on the yard, too?
Ronald threw
her clothes. Okay.
Yes.
I got that backwards. Okay.
Yep. Police say this is all foggy and guesses by people because the people that were around that night were pretty heavy drug users. And it made things very unclear for them to recall. In small towns and communities like this one, people talk. This is a theory that a lot of people latch onto, that she was at a party that night, something happened, and they wonder if Haleigh was given or gotten into some kind of drug and she passed, so they had to get rid of her body. If that did happen, police say there is no evidence of it happening at the trailer that they know of.
But were the reports saying both were there, or were they saying Misty was there? Because I thought Ronald was working.
Ronald was working. Misty and Haleigh were
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like I wanted to confirm because it sounded like there was drug use from Ronald too in general, but just maybe he wasn't there when it happened.
Right. There was no drugs in the trailer by the time the police got there that night. They also made it very clear at this time that they did not believe Ronald had any part of this at all. There was...
Because he had an alibi,
He
partially.
had an alibi. He was clocked in at work. He took polygraphs. He did everything he could to find Haleigh. There was no evidence that Ronald did anything.
Basically, he cooperated and also had an alibi and, like, and didn't change the story.
Yep. So, that's a lot there.
Yeah.
And it does sound a lot like Kaylee and Casey Anthony.
And it puts a lot on Misty already. I mean, everybody listening, I'm sure, is suspecting Misty.
Yep. As rumors flew, police took to canvassing everything they could, including the trailer. Police released that they believed the cinder block came from the yard of the trailer. One interesting thing that they found and looked into was the number of S offenders in the neighborhood. Now, this is scary. This is something we've talked about before on the podcast, and I choose to keep my peace and not look at how many offenders there are in the neighborhood.
I've looked.
I don't want to know.
I know you don't. I've looked, though, like, because I worry about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I know you do, too, but, like, you are, like, I feel like for you, you're like, I'm going to be overcautious anyways, so adding extra anxiety on top of my overcautiousness already, like, I get that. So I'm just trying to say, I'm not trying to say that you aren't looking out of lack of concern. You're not looking because you're already paranoid.
Yes.
And you'll be super paranoid.
Yes. So I'm going to give you this and see if you think it's a lot. In the area of the Cummings trailer, 44 S offenders in about half a mile radius.
That seems like a lot, yeah.
I feel like that's a lot.
Yeah, half mile, that's like a little more, like, it's like 2 blocks, I feel like.
Well, and I believe that was pretty much in a trailer park.
Yeah.
And then to the other side was woods.
Okay, so pretty much the trailer park was
pretty much
lot.
And I feel like that could be a lead because that seems like a lot.
And I mean, so one thing to clarify, S offenders doesn't always mean underage.
True.
But it's never a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like...
And you have this little girl who's walking home from a bus stop. You have her playing in the yard. You have people seeing her a lot.
Yeah.
And could somebody have followed her back or seen her at that trailer?
So that was the weird part to me about the story you told was, like, if she only ever got up to go to the bathroom or only ever got up to get a drink of water, that person had to be, like in the house to get a kid that quick in that short of a time that would take you to go to the bathroom or get water, unless she was, like, either one, she was under the influence of some kind of drug, or two, like, it didn't actually happen that way and it was her. But I'm just saying, like, the window for somebody, not ruling it out, because obviously that many people around, it could have happened that way, but that's such a short window if it truly was she just went up and got water and then she was gone.
Yeah. And they would have to know about the house and all of that.
Yeah, know the sounds, but I mean, if she was on drugs, like, she could have said, I went up to go get water, and who knows how long that takes at that point if you're intoxicated.
Right. So October 7th, Ronald and Misty get divorced. Big surprise there. Their marriage didn't last. January 2010, this was when a big thing in the case happened. Ronald, Misty, and 3 other people are arrested. But it had nothing to do with Haleigh's disappearance. It was due to a massive undercover drug sting. Ronald was sentenced to 15 years in prison, but was released in October 2022.
So 12 for him.
After he qualified for an incentive gain that was like serving 85% of your prison sentence under state law, you can be released.
Gotcha.
Misty was arrested on multiple drug charges. She had turned 18, and so she was given a significant sentence, considering her age and lack of record, 25 years, which was a lot.
That's like more than his.
Yep. She is incarcerated and scheduled to be released in April 2032. Her prison discipline report says she's been written up for spoken threats, possession of contraband, S-acts, and possession of tobacco. Others arrested with them in the drug trafficking investigation were Crosling's, which was Misty's brother, Hank Tommy Crosling Jr., Donna Brock, and Hope Sykes. We don't
Just to clarify, you said one of the Croslings Jr., like not the kid Jr.
No.
Okay.
We're talking, so Ronald's last name's Cummings. Misty's last name's Crosling.
Right. But you said Junior in there, and I just want to make sure it wasn't the kid because it was later.
Misty's brother named Hank Tommy Crosling Jr.
Okay.
Okay, so this was the break that police needed. So they were like, maybe now
that we already got you for something.
Right, we got you for drug charges. Like, let's see what we can get out of them. And Misty said she was ready. Her story was that her brother and her cousin did something to Haleigh. She described them dumping her into a boat ramp that was near the home. She described in great detail the rope, the ramp, everything looked like. The police looked into the cousin and found that he had been staying near the trailer park, but left the day Haleigh went missing. This could be a huge break in the case. So police descended on this boat ramp. They spent 3 days combing the pond. They had experts from Florida University come who were expert in bone reading.
Divers. Stuff.
I mean, yeah. They drained the whole pond. Like, you talked about draining a pond.
Yeah.
They drained this pond.
Right.
And they found nothing. So they brought Misty out. And they were like, okay, you said she was here. Where is she? And she, at that point, she stood on the boat ramp, looked out at the water, and said she lied. She said she made the whole thing up.
For those listening on the podcast, I'm sorry, I just shook my head.
Yeah.
It happens so much, though.
It does. It does.
So, do you know if the ones she was accusing, were they also ones that were already in prison, too?
So her
cousin
brother was in prison for the drugs. Her cousin, they never really mentioned anything about him.
Okay.
So I don't really know. But
Gotcha.
there hadn't, I mean, that was the only lead they had. That was the only evidence. I was trying
to figure out why she picked them to turn on them. And I was like, well, maybe if they're already in prison. She's like, I'm just going to turn on them now because they can't do anything about it.
I think it was made up.
I think it was too.
I think it was.
That's why I was trying to rationalize it, like why she would wait to.
But I mean, you also have her brother being the one that had the car that night. Did he take her to the party? Did he know something more?
Yeah.
We might never know that.
Right.
But it's a good chance that he knew something.
Did they interrogate him on this because he was going to prison?
I assume. But nothing ever came out of it.
Right.
So Tim Miller from Texas EquiSearch gave Misty a polygraph test. He was like, I will voluntarily give this to you. She failed miserably. 3 questions she failed on was, are you hiding information? Do you know what happened to Haleigh Cummings? And do you know where Haleigh Cummings is now? She also failed a voice stress analysis test. Now, we know these things aren't admissible in court and they don't hold up. Like, you could fail miserably and not have done anything.
You can also people can train themselves to pass them too. So my thought, though, I wanted to ask this question. Do you feel like when somebody fails a polygraph miserably, like fails by a lot, do you tend to be like, maybe I believe the polygraph a little bit more? Like maybe it's not admissible, but like you picture that needle going off the chart and you're like, I get it's not admissible, but that's not a very good look.
Mm-hmm. So this was just another fact. In 2021, Haleigh's cousin, 20-year-old Germanic Luther Jr., or JJ, was found dead in the back of an SUV. His murder still remains unsolved. To this day, Haleigh has never been found. The police department believes that she is probably deceased. The family is still waiting for her to come home, though, and they will always hold hope. So will we ever know truly what happened to Haleigh Cummings?
I hope so.
I hope so too. I hope someone talks, but
so we talked about another podcast where we hope that like she's living a life somewhere else. Like in this case, she was too young. There's just it doesn't
any situation
feel like,
she had here was bad.
Yeah, no matter what happened.
Yep.
No matter even if she's still alive today, and that means she probably got sex trafficked.
Right.
Unfortunately, like I wish I hate saying that, but like that's the only scenario, or she was made miserable in some other horrible situation. Right. So like there's just I don't think there's any happy ending in this one.
Yeah. So I mentioned Lucas Hernandez. I wanted to kind of explain that a little bit because for our non-Kansas, non-post-Midwestern, they probably won't know it all. You probably won't know anything about it. It was on Nancy Grace, so there was some
they got national media, yeah.
So I knew kind of Lucas, and I knew his biological mother. So this case was very like big to me. I followed it a lot. Basically what had happened in that case was Lucas was left with Dad's girlfriend. She called 911, said she couldn't find him and that he had probably walked out the back door.
Dad was out of state working.
Yep, Dad was a truck driver?
I don't remember.
Or oil rig worker.
I just know he was out of state.
Yeah, I think he was one of those, but he worked out of state. He came back. They had a couple months of looking for him. Mm-hmm. Like, couldn't find any evidence of anything. Then Nancy Grace got involved, and a private investigator got involved. And the private investigator really, really pressed this girlfriend.
I mean, he straight up lied, too.
Yeah, he recorded her and all of that.
He said I'm glad that this happened because it got the truth out there. Mm-hmm. You can question the morals however you wanted to, but he told was she a girlfriend at that time?
Yeah, I think girlfriend.
Because she definitely wasn't the biological mom. She was the girlfriend. Mm-hmm. The private investigator told her, you can't get in trouble for what you tell me. Mm-hmm. And then she led him to where she believed Lucas was, right? Mm-hmm. And that ended up being where Lucas was.
Yes. And shortly after that, she committed suicide.
Mm-hmm. So she never actually went to prison.
She never went to prison. We never found out how he died or anything that happened. Mm-hmm. And he was dumped in a culvert kind of thing here in Kansas.
Yeah,
it was very hard.
It was horrible.
It was a hard case. It was very horrible. There was not really an ending, which I feel like is not really an ending here. Yeah. Which I feel like is not really an ending in Caylee Anthony. Like, we have nothing.
Yeah.
And it's so hard.
I know you're trying not to give too much about your personal life, but like, mm-hmm. when you say that you somewhat knew Lucas and you mm-hmm. say that you somewhat knew his biological mother, mm-hmm. I feel like you can at least safely say, like, when she says somewhat, she really emphasizes somewhat. Like, it was not super close to the, like, she didn't know a lot of personal details about either one of them. I don't want people, the reason why I'm clarifying that is I don't want people being like, oh, well, does she know what happened? Like, no,
I have no idea
she has no clue. She's met the people in this case before, but met them and just, like, you know, that's it. Met them.
Met them. I think I briefly met Lucas at one point, and I knew his biological mom. That's the extent of it.
In a very acquaintance sense.
Yeah. But it was tragic for everybody here. Like, even if you didn't know them, it was hard. It was a hard case. Yeah. And that's what I feel like this is with Haleigh, is like...
And it really had everybody. I mean, Wichita's a big-ish town. Mm-hmm. It had everybody in the whole town just, like, wrapped up in it. Like, everybody wanting to look. I think one of my friends even helped look.
Yeah?
That lived in Wichita at the time. I think he even went out and helped with the search parties. Like, literally everybody in that kind of town was like, we'll look wherever we can, do whatever we can.
But it seems word for word a lot like Haleigh's case. I will probably cover Lucas's at one point. I need to be kind of farther away from it.
Yeah.
But it's almost word for word. I mean, you have this girlfriend who something happened, and with Lucas, we found him, at least. With Kaylee Anthony, we found her. With Haleigh,
we've yet to find her.
We have yet to even know. So, like I said, her family still thinks they're going to bring her home.
Right.
And it's a very tough thing, and that's why I know you guys are probably sitting there like, give us a case with an ending.
She's always been that way. Sarah's always watched cases and listened to cases that are end up in cold cases or mysteries or things like that. And it's always driven me crazy, because for me, it's always like, I get more interested in the psychology of what happened and what makes people do the things they do. This one, the psychology where I got into thinking about psychology was thinking about really Ronald's psychology and the psychology of that relationship with an older male and a younger woman, and how that's uncomfortable and different power dynamics. So, like, that was the kind of stuff that I always got interested. So when you hear my cases, you're probably going to get some form of an ending, because, like, I'm more focused on that. Yeah,
and I will start to do some, because
that's okay. You are covering what you really, because she wants to find the answers, so that's why she really digs in.
Yeah, but I also know that an ending is good too.
Yeah.
So we've got some other cases coming at you at some point.
We recorded a lot of material.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be, this is where she gets to not have to be around me, and she's doing the editing, and I'm not sitting here talking too much.
Right. So that will be coming at you. Sorry, this just shows how tired I am.
This is like, we're probably almost 1 o'clock. We're recording late at 12:30. So that was close. So we're late night recording.
Yep.
No yawning out of the cases being boring. Just literal lack of sleep.
Literal. My brain needs oxygen. So if you guys want to help us out, please like, subscribe, do all those good things. If you're listening to our podcast at all and you like it, please subscribe. I listen to a lot of podcasts that I don't subscribe to, and I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm like, I need to go back and subscribe to them. Like, I'm listening, I'm here, I just don't subscribe. Why do I do that?
Yeah, it's one of those things that it really helps us.
Yeah.
And you don't always see it when you're not a creator, but when you're a creator, every little interaction actually really helps us. Even you guys commenting and just saying hi. Yeah. Like, that's cool. Like, that actually helps us a lot. So every little interaction.
I was thinking about this today. Being a content creator is a lot harder than people think it is.
It is.
Because I sit here and I pick a case that I'm like, I want you guys to like and feel connected to. Or I want there to be some kind of like reason that I'm doing it. So I pick this case and I do this research and I record and I edit and I put it out everywhere. And then it gets 2 views and one of them is me. and I'm like, oh. And it is a blow. Like, it feels like I'm giving you this thing that I worked so hard on and no one is there.
Yeah, but
so it's hard.
That's another thing too, is a lot of people just think it's only while we're recording. You're like, oh, I mean, you guys had an hour of material. Mm-hmm. The amount of time that she puts in research is, I mean, I feel like you research like a week per case. Like her hours to actual recording time are insane. And I learned that from me doing some cases too. Like when I really got in and started doing cases too, I'm like, oh my God, the research takes so long. Like and just don't bring up this case anymore to me because I don't know if I can do it anymore. But the Murdaugh case, like I did a lot of research on the Murdaugh case. I watched Netflix documentaries, I read stuff, and I probably spent 8 to 16 hours on that case. Like legit that amount of time for 1 to 2 videos. Yeah. And then I didn't edit it. She edited it. So she had editing time on top of that. So every case actually takes a long time. And this isn't to, I don't know, this isn't to complain. This isn't to do anything like that. This is just like, we do it for you guys. And we also do it because she, like you said, want to find the answers, want to see if you can help these people in these situations. And then if you guys like it, if you enjoy it, just a simple like, subscribe, all that stuff really does actually help make us realize that the things we're doing are really stuff you like.
Mm-hmm. I've said this since the beginning. Like Bailey Sarian always says, thank you, because if you weren't here, I wouldn't be here. I would still be here. I would still be here doing it. Right. Even if I get 2 views, I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
But the difference is when you guys say, good job, or, I liked this, or I felt something about this, it's just so much more impactful, and it makes me want to keep going. So.
Yeah, I will say that, like, and I'm not mentioning the other one because I don't cross the 2, and you and I have talked about that, but I started doing another channel too, and this channel I actually do all the talking, the editing, I do all that stuff, and I see the comments more too, and like there have literally been times where I've seen a comment, like a positive comment, and it just like lifts you up, like as a creator, because you're like, it meant something to someone. So just really appreciate all of you that do take the time out of your day to like, comment, and subscribe, as everybody says, but more than that, like we read them and they do actually really mean something to us.
Yeah. So thank you guys for being here from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it. Even though I'm sporadic, you guys still show up, and that's pretty cool. So we'll be back at you next time, hopefully with one that has a ending.
Yep. We're not going anywhere. We'll be here.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya. Peace.
Bye. Hi guys, I just wanted to say I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like any of the content for Code187, please click that subscribe button, that like button, that share button. Help us out, help us grow. You can find us on your favorite podcast platforms. Yeah, check us out on there. Give us some ratings. Tell us what you think. We're also across every social media on Code187. So we're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I think that's it. And of course, YouTube. So please, please, please subscribe if you like our content and spread the word. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.